Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Joe Citizen Show. This is Roger Homefield. I am Joe Citizen, but so are you. We're going to need everybody to be a Joe Citizen. You know, the government's first responsibility is to protect its citizens. But this administration seems to do the opposite. Uh, we also always rose up to protect the helpless victims. But with our historic betrayal of Israel, it's clear that we either do not know or care who the real victims are anymore. This country is still being commandeered by those that hate America. This is the Obama administration 2.0, and it's killing the country, and it's killing us, literally. Let's go to the border. On a security level, we have single military-age males from all over the world walking into this country with whatever agendas they may each be carrying. And on a humanitarian level, imagine being a young child in the arms of a young mother who's just as scared as you are because they know they could get raped or murdered at any time. Now, multiply that times hundreds, if not thousands of times a day, and this goes on 24/7. And we're the guys with the white hats. We're the good guys. But we've created this entire situation all on our lonesome. We all get irritated with the illegals. And yet, we're responsible for luring them here. They're breaking our laws, but Obama and Biden told them it was okay to come on up. Biden's committing treason at the border 24/7. In addition to undermining Texas's ability to defend her own border, he's been secretly flying 320,000 illegals a year under the radar into all over America. During the Obama administration, they actually had radio messages in Spanish going out to South America, telling them how to game our system regarding the asylum laws. Now, our own government telling foreign nationals how to get around our own laws. If that's not malfeasance, I don't know what is. And the group of 100 or so that stampeded the Border Patrol, the union representing the U.S. Border Patrol agents has accused the Biden administration of creating, quote, anarchy at the southern border. He says, quote, this is only going to get worse. It's just the beginning, the Border Patrol union said. The anarchy Joe Biden and his radical leftist mob have unleashed on Americans is despicable, he said. Clearly, Biden can stop the flow of migrants overnight. We cannot forget how he looked in the camera saying he's done all he can. Lies, malfeasance, treason, all for votes. Mexican President Obrador talked down his nose to America, saying the flow of immigrants would continue unless we gave South America $20 billion a year plus undisclosed amnesties. So in other words, what he's saying is that he could actually stop the flow if he chose to. Could you imagine if he said that while Trump was president? Of course, we wouldn't be having this discussion now if Trump were president. Israel. You know, I was going to begin this segment on Israel talking about the disastrous United Nations resolution we refused to veto. This is the first time in Israel's history we did not cover her back in an openly anti-Semitic United Nations. We failed to veto a UN resolution for Israel to have an immediate ceasefire. I was going to tell you that we had just witnessed the biggest betrayal of any ally who's in the midst of fighting a war of survival. But it's just gotten a whole lot worse. You see, 7 food aid workers in Gaza were mistakenly killed by the Israelis while attacking Hamas. I'm sure we've killed a whole lot more aid workers and medics during our attacks on Tokyo, Dresden, Berlin, and others. Now, it's admirable and humane that they are giving aid, but they were in the middle of a battle zone. Again, these were 7 accidental deaths, not 1,200 intentional civilian deaths. On October 7th, when there was an ongoing ceasefire, Hamas, to the glee of all their family members, raped, tortured, terrorized, impaled, mutilated, macheted, and put into ovens the ones who could fit. And now, after the accidental deaths of these 7, the Biden-Obama administration is now demanding an Israeli ceasefire with no return of any hostages, including American hostages. Biden is demanding an Israeli ceasefire or else. The United States had committed to supporting Israel in its mission of eliminating Hamas and said that a ceasefire would be the same as a Hamas victory. So why is America pulling a Hamas terrorist defeat out of Israeli jaws of victory? It cannot be overlooked that to the Muslim world, the largest power of the West, the big Satan, America, is submitting to Islam. And the appearance is all that matters, and it gives a big adrenaline shot into the arms of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, and the rest, who will have a resurgence once they see that America is retreating. The Patriot missiles that Israel has for its Iron Dome to protect itself from incoming missiles can only last for so long, and I don't know if they'll have enough until Trump is in office. And if they don't, then you will see real genocide, not propaganda. Make no mistake, Israel is in a fight for her very existence. We saw what they did to the 1,200 civilians. That's what they would do to all Israelis, given the chance. And right now, Biden is opening the door for them to have that chance. Let me repeat a grim report I have mentioned before. When the German civilians were forced to go into and witness what happened at the concentration camps, they were appalled and ashamed. But when the Palestinian families witnessed the videos of the atrocities to mankind and the unimaginable brutality against the Israelis, they basked in glee. Now, I'm not suggesting that the civilians get killed because they're complicit, which most of them are. But what I am saying is if they don't have food and if they don't have water, then maybe it's time for them to surrender. But the whole world wants the victor to surrender because it's Israel. How the hell is Israel supposed to finish winning the war when Hamas now sees America is rallying behind them? And all they have to do is wait for the rest of the world to come to their rescue. Israel's position militarily is like having taken the football all the way down to the end zone, and now instead of going into the end zone for victory, America and the world wants them to put the ball down on the 1-yard line and wait to get slaughtered again. Trump is right in saying they need to finish going into Rafah, and they need to do it soon. Tonight would not be too soon. It was just a few short months ago when this country wrapped its arms around Israel and said, we are 100% behind you, and do whatever you need to do to defend yourselves and eliminate Hamas. Not defeat Hamas, but eliminate Hamas. Furthermore, the U.S. said that any ceasefire will be one and the same as a Hamas victory. But that's exactly what they're now demanding Israel to do. An immediate ceasefire, no hostages. Oh, and American hostages, well, it's not even mentioned. This administration has taken premeditated, pre-scripted, incremental steps to throw Israel under the bus. This, no doubt, is coming from Obama, because this is a continuation of the Obama-Biden administration, period. And how liberal Jews could fawn all over Obama and make him the new golden calf, bringing him into AIPAC, their largest Jewish organization, giving him standing ovations, was always beyond my comprehension. And today we see why. Last week was the leak that Biden was looking for a way to get rid of Netanyahu, which was shocking in its own right. Then Judas Chucky Schumer gets up on the Senate floor and spewed his third world, un-American, undemocratic, unprecedented demands of our best ally, Israel, to hold special elections. If there was ever a country that needed special elections, it's right here in America. Did he demand that the Palestinians should have special elections? And now they want Israel to have an immediate ceasefire, but, like I say, without getting any hostages. But that's okay. That's okay, because Uncle Joe, the scrappy kid from Scranton with the rolled-up sleeves, he's used to leaving people behind, no problem. He left a whole lot more than that behind in Afghanistan, so why would dozens of Americans bother him now? In fact, ladies and gentlemen, we should be going in there with Israel now. We should be going in there to get our hostages and then get the hell out. And you know something? What do you think Hamas would do if they knew America is not backing away from Israel, and instead they're about to stormtroop up their butts to get their hostages back? You think that might bring the war to a quicker end? I do. So it's not bad enough that we're not lifting a finger to get our own American hostages back, but now we won't let Israel do it for us either. We're tackling Israel at the 1-yard line and won't let them do it either because we decide their war policy. Keep in mind, I don't enjoy saying it, but hostages are getting raped and tortured every day. Someone needs to go in there and rescue them. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said it was a moral and strategic imperative to protect Palestinian civilians. Really? How about winning the war, Secretary Austin? If protecting Palestinian civilians, most of whom support Hamas, if protecting Palestinian civilians is such a moral and strategic imperative, why the hell don't you demand that Hamas surrender? Isn't it the team that loses that's supposed to be the one that surrenders, not the one that wins? Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says this resolution must be implemented. So what exactly does he mean by that? Are we going to see UN blue helmeted soldiers streaming into Gaza? What most people fail to understand, beyond all of this, is how the Muslim world views this. To the Muslim world, our abandoning Israel is one and the same as the West submitting to Islam. Fanning the flames on the hopes of their caliphate, this will lengthen and not shorten the war. If Israel is even able to still win it with all these obstacles Biden has made, Biden has screwed up America. He's screwed up Afghanistan, Ukraine, Russia, and he's now determined to screw up the Mideast. You know, we had peace in the Mideast with Donald Trump's Abraham Accords until Biden came in. So the squad now runs the terrorist wing of the Democrats. Palestinian protesters dumped manure at the homes of NSA Director Jake Sullivan and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. No, I know I shouldn't laugh. It's just strange how justice... anyway, let's go forward here. The same hostile groups tried to break down the White House fence a couple of weeks ago. Not to mention the road closures and other invasive, intimidating acts by hostile pro-Hamas groups in this country. Not like the 300,000 pro-Israeli demonstrators who peacefully waved flags in front of the White House several months ago. Remember when Schumer spoke to them, blowing hot air up their butts? And then promptly he went into Congress 4 hours later and voted down aid to Israel. Now, I previously mentioned how the Muslim world views this as the West submitting to Islam. And the importance of this is due to the fact that jihad did not begin or end on 9/11. Furthermore, the dynamics in Islam that caused 9/11 have not changed whatsoever. And the fact is, jihadists are not perverting Islam. They are following it. And that's the inconvenient truth our government has refused to share with the American public ever since 9/11. Ever since George Bush went arm in arm with the imams, everybody thought, that's it, everything's okay, let's go home now. But jihad never stops unless it is stopped. The purpose of jihad is to spread Sharia law. And when you retreat the way we did in Afghanistan, and now the appearance of doing so in Israel, we are inviting them to come and beat the snot out of us. Since 9/11, the population has doubled in the United States. Since 9/11, the Muslim population has doubled in the United States. Why? This number will double again by 2030. They will have gone from 1.86 million to 6.2 million. One of the methods of jihad is the Hajj, H-A-J, which is mass migration. We saw this happen in Europe with disastrous consequences. Europe was naively blind to what was happening and or too scared to do anything about it, lest they be called Islamophobe. Meanwhile, in America, the populations have doubled due to immigration and higher than average fertility among Muslims. Oh, they don't castrate their kids. When Obama brought them in, did he bother to vet them, asking if they are Sharia compliant? Did he ask them if they are Sharia compliant? Because if they're Sharia compliant, it's their duty to participate in jihad at some point in their lives. It doesn't have to be violent jihad. It could be it from the sword or the pen, violent jihad or cultural jihad. Sharia law is not coexistent with our Constitution, and their long game is to replace the Constitution with Sharia law. Or did the vetting process happen to ask them if they hate the existing citizens in this new country of theirs, America, which is filled with Christians and Jews? Unfortunately, I think I can tell you the answer is no.
The most dangerous sound I've ever heard. Sharia. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long. See you in November at the polls where we are gonna have our say. Better see you in November. It's our chance to throw these fools away. Counting the days till we're rid of you. Counting the hours and the minutes too. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long. Bye-bye, so long, farewell.
Well, I hope you like that. That lightened up the mood for a moment. But don't worry, I'll take care of that. We don't want to have too much of that. God forbid. I really expected these golden years to be fun. I really didn't think I'd have to be so concerned about our country. I mean, this country was so secure just X number of years ago, and we just we frittered it all away. We let it go. Let's talk about the January Sixers. We had Tim Rivers as a guest several times. Check out J6, the number 6, patriotnews.com, j6patriotnews.com. After 9/11, the left had a meltdown over waterboarding genocidal terrorists that they were trying to get information from to prevent future attacks. But they were accused of waterboarding, and they couldn't do that because they called that torture. But they have no problem with the harsh treatment and the years-long solitary confinement for nonviolent January 6 political prisoners. The FBI and the Department of Justice have still, to this day, refused to disclose how many agents were wearing Trump garb infiltrated as agitators among the crowd, or how many Antifa or BLM were in Trump garb. Some unsuspecting protesters believe they were doing no harm because they were let in by Capitol Police. Pelosi refused to bring in the 5,000 National Guard that President Trump had offered, and instead, Capitol Police opened some of the doors. Now, someone had to have told the Capitol Police to walk away from the doors, and Pelosi was in charge. Hillary blew off subpoenas and destroyed her 33,000 emails and 8 cell phones with hammers. It's documented in John Brennan's memo that Hillary masterminded framing Trump as a Russian spy. Meanwhile, nonviolent January 6ers have been in solitary confinement for years, while no one is even arrested for conspiring to overthrow the sitting president of the United States, President Trump. But what I can tell you is that I'm in shock that we have political prisoners in this country. I'm not saying nobody did anything wrong, but something really stinks on this. So who's in jail and who's out? There a couple of Proud Boys. They got 17 and 22-year sentences, 2 of them. This white supremacist group was founded by Enrique Tarrio, an Afro-Cuban, along with many other non-whites. This group was founded because they were... Let me go back. Let me just go back here to Enrico Tarrio, an Afro-Cuban, because I was married to an Afro-Cuban before she passed. And I can tell you that the Cubans love this country far more than the average citizen, because the Cubans that came here after Castro, they saw what happened. They saw Castro take over. It came incrementally. They describe it just really same rhetoric that was out of Obama's mouth. The Cubans did not like that whatsoever, and neither did Rita. I can tell you that. And so it makes me sick to think that Enrico Tarrio, an Afro-Cuban who loves this country, being accused of being a white supremacist. Folks, this group was founded because they were fed up with historic statues being torn down in the middle of the night by left-wing mobs. Remember that? Well, it pissed me off, and I would have gladly joined their cause. Meanwhile, we got liars like Adam Schiff free to run around the Senate, all over Congress, spewing his fabricated, bold-faced lies. We've got 9/11 mastermind and the murder of Daniel Pearl, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. He's still running around enjoying the soccer field at Gitmo. We've got violent repeat offenders that are routinely let out. Like I told you, Hillary blew off her 33,000 emails, and she runs around like a drunken queen on her banquet tours. There's a new documentary. It's called January 6th, A True Timeline. That's January 6th, A True Timeline. It shows the only one apparently inciting, charging the Capitol is Ray Epps, including the day before and the day of January 6th. And God knows how many FBI agents dressed as Trump supporters. Now, I don't know all the details of evidence, but judging from the rest of everything else that they've been doing, and ever since they mistreated General Flynn, an American hero, destroyed his family, destroyed him, and it was a complete setup. General Flynn was a hero. The FBI, what they did with him was absolutely a disgrace. And that's just one thing of sand on the beach for what they're doing. There was George Papadopoulos, Carter Page. He was a Navy man. They tried to trash him. They made him sound like a spy. Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro is in jail now, and he was in the administration. But he didn't want to reveal one of his sources regarding this January 6th, this commission that's shown to be a bogus, and he's in jail. You know what for? Contempt of Congress. Oh, he's in jail for contempt of Congress. You know who had contempt of Congress? Eric Holder was held in contempt of Congress for this stupid, fatal, imbecilic plan called Fast and Furious, where we literally gave the cartels like 2,500 long guns. So we would see what would happen. They were going to track it, see what would happen, and then somehow blame the American gun stores and manufacturers. I know that sounds too stupid to be real, but it was. It's called Fast and Furious. And the only thing that even brought attention to it was that a federal agent called Brian Terry got killed by one of those guns. So now we're involving something. That was just one that they know of. We're talking about thousands of guns that we gave to the bad guys in Mexico. And Eric Holder wouldn't open his frickin' mouth about it. He was held in contempt of Congress. Jack squat happened to him. And Peter Navarro for not wanting to reveal a source to this bogus committee. And they were bogus. They withheld information. You saw what they did to Roger Stone. Raided his house in the middle of the night, freaked out his family. How about America's Mayor Giuliani? Thank you very much, left, for destroying and ruining the golden years of America's Mayor Giuliani. The man that probably, Bush showed up on the scene, he stood on the heap and he spoke and he made everybody feel good. Up until that point, there was one man holding America together, and that was Rudy Giuliani. And look what they've done to him. And of course, the January 6ers and President Trump and his attorneys. So I find it hard to believe that the Proud Boys received a fair trial whatsoever. I would extend that same doubt upon the fairness regarding the trials of the Oath Keepers as well. Now, I'm not saying they're all innocent, but looking at the behavior and the prejudice of the Department of Justice, I would not be surprised if most, if not all, are in fact innocent. Let's talk about the COVID capers. It's a sad chapter in U.S. history. It really is. And Senator Rand Paul, Dr. MD Senator Rand Paul, actually had it right when he grilled Anthony Fauci about gain of function research. The research is so dangerous, it's outlawed in the United States because of the possibility of a deadly virus being released into the public. So Fauci went and he funded the Wuhan clinic instead. And that's exactly what happened. That's what played out. The virus escaped. Then Fauci prevented the use of inexpensive, highly effective drugs like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. These two drugs were wrongly and intentionally smeared along with anyone who suggested they work. Even brilliant experts in the field, such as Dr. Harvey Risch, chief epidemiologist at Yale University. Before you hear any more from me, let's go right to Dr. Harvey Risch. Here's a portion of the statement of Dr. Harvey Risch, professor of epidemiology at Yale School of Public Health. Quote, "Our government research institutions have invested billions of dollars in expensive patent medication and vaccine development, but almost nothing in early outpatient treatment. We have formal government policies and warnings against early outpatient treatment. Go in the opposite direction, right? And 250,000 Americans have died from this mismanaged approach. Let me read that again because I interrupted myself. I have a tendency to do that sometimes. He said we have formal government policies and warnings against early outpatient treatment, and 250,000 Americans have died from this mismanaged approach. The evidence for the benefit of hydroxychloroquine used early in high-risk outpatients is extremely strong. And the evidence against harm or side effects is also equally strong. Hydroxychloroquine needs to have its emergency use authorization application approved immediately, he said. And he concluded, this is how we will get on the road to early outpatient, meaning you don't have to stay in the hospital. You can just get the damn drug. This is how we will get on the road to early outpatient treatment and the major curtailment of mortality. This is how we can stop people from dying. Remember back when people were ridiculed and mocked and censored if they brought up ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine? Well, they're not laughing now, and neither are the people who died who were prevented from taking them. You see, Big Brother stuck his fat ass in between us and our doctors' prescriptions, overruling our doctors' prescriptions. Excuse me, Big Brother. Does my doctor still need your permission to write my prescription? So even if your doctor was smart enough and bold enough to write you a prescription for ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, you could not get them filled. And that's because the Biden administration threatened doctors not to write the prescriptions. They pressured pharmacies not to carry the drugs. They pressured the pharmacists not to fill them, all under the threat of not having their licenses renewed. Do you remember how smug and nasty and malicious it became? Like with the vaccine passport and jobs lost by police, military servicemen, and teachers losing their jobs over getting vaxxed, including people that already had it and felt they had the antibodies or were pregnant or for whatever damn reasons they had. And the threat of being denied medical treatment if you were unvaccinated. You know, they were so apoplectic about people using ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine that you knew something had to stink. The government doth protest too much, don't you think? So what were their reasons for denying these two drugs? So why were they so frantic to trash these two drugs? Could it simply be because Trump was the first to reveal their use? You know, a few weeks ago, we had Jeff Hayes as a guest on the show. He's the documentarian that did The Real RFK Jr., but more importantly, in this instance, what we're talking about, he did The Real Anthony Fauci. Now, he told us about the FDA, Food and Drug Administration's, quote, Emergency Use Authorization Act, the EUA Act. Never heard of it before, but this emergency use authorization, it gives companies a very, very fast track, cutting through all the red tape to get their product to market. It gives the company a tremendous advantage financially. And here's the punchline. If hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin were shown to be successful, the vaccines would not have been eligible for the emergency use authorization. This would have cost Big Pharma hundreds of billions of dollars. Now, the government was so desperate for everyone to get the vaccine that they made it virtually impossible to get any therapeutics. They didn't want us to have the cure. They just wanted us to get the vaccine. They could have, but they did not save Americans. They did not save Americans by giving them early treatment at the onset of symptoms. You may recall that Trump always said to take it early on. Always said, take it as soon as you get the symptoms. The sooner you take it, the better. But instead, they told us to stay home, drink water, and if we got worse, to go to the hospital. But by then, that would be too late because the hospital would not allow ivermectin, even if prescribed by your doctor. Ivermectin worked better in patients if they didn't get it early on. Hydroxychloroquine was great if you got it very early, ivermectin too, but ivermectin was also had better capabilities of knocking it out if you didn't get it in the immediate onset. So we went from Trump's, and I got a personal issue with this. I had a friend that died in a Las Vegas hospital, and that's exactly what happened to him. The Las Vegas hospital would not permit him the drugs that his doctor prescribed him. So we went from Trump's right to try to Biden's right to die. So instead of treating you upon symptoms and not waiting for these tests, that was all a waste of time, going and getting a test and waiting for the test results. If you had symptoms, take the damn drug. And Dr. Risch said that would have saved 250,000 people, 250,000 Americans. And we all know about the funny business that was going on. Motorcycle accidents coming in. They put it in the COVID death column. Most people are aware of that by now, that numbers were incredibly fudged. You know, we all knew that the Democrats' credo was never let a crisis go to waste. Or, let me take it easy on the Democrats. Why? We all know that the left credo, the leftist credo, is never let a crisis go to waste. But this COVID-19 has taken that to a whole new level. They spent trillions, and that's what fueled inflation, all kinds of fraud. It trained Americans to be socialists, stay at home, not work, and make more money at home. COVID money was used on other social programs. Then, of course, the vaccine mandates, splitting of Americans into two new opposing classes, the vaxxed and the the unvaxxed. The evil unvaxxed that was going to get everybody else infected. That turned out to be a bunch of crow as well. And of course, there were the lockdowns, prevented people from going to church, prevented people from seeing their frightened, dying loved ones due to the bogus hospital protocol that the federal government demanded. Again, regardless what you believe about hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, Big Brother stuck his fat ass in between us and our doctors, overruling our doctors' prescriptions. Oh, excuse me, Big Brother. Does my doctor still need your permission to write my prescription? Let's talk about the 2020 election. Oh, I know we're not supposed to do that. That's a closed debate. If you even bring that up, that means you're a lunatic and you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, let me tell you something, folks. Hear this. Now hear this. Now hear this. Biden's margin of victory was only 42,918 votes total from 3 states. Biden won by less than 43,000 votes total from Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia. And without them, Biden does not win. One last time, Biden won by less than 43,000 votes total from Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia. Without them, Biden does not win. And what a coincidence that these swing states were identified in the movie 2,000 Mules, allowing a hell of a lot more votes than that. Pelosi pulled off the greatest mail-in ballot scheme in history. The Democrats had zero voter enthusiasm and would not have bothered going to the polls. Elections used to be all about voter enthusiasm. They weren't going to go to the polls, so the Democrat machine took the polls to them. It would have been a landslide for Trump without the Democrats' vote at home scheme. But that's not all. The radical Dems took their communist ways all to the election's door. And I'm not even talking about the 98% media coverage, but they took it to a new level the day before the election, one day before voting began. All the TV network news, mainstream media, newspapers, and social media, all media colluded to pull off a complete blackout of the New York Post article, the article which exposed the Biden family's influence peddling schemes. It has been a widely accepted statistic that 17% of the Democrat voters would not have voted for Biden had they received this news. 17%. That's a big number. We all, especially Trump supporters, are suffering election fatigue. The energy needed to win the 2016 battle, it was never allowed to settle. We weren't allowed to ever settle back and enjoy the victory. That's because the will of the people meant nothing to these revolutionary leftists who threw all of our election aside and just continued with a nonstop, seamless, brutal smear attack on Donald Trump from 2015, which has continued to this day. Trump supporters have burdened the brunt of it right along with Trump, constantly feeling the need to defend themselves against an onslaught of false accusations and propaganda. It should be clear to every American by now that the president should, in fact, be indicted. President Biden, that is.
Framed by Hillary, FBI and NBC. A deplorable hoax, he was right all along. He was right about the wall. Open borders, fentanyl. Everybody walking across without a wall. Stranded in Afghanistan, left to face the Taliban. Never have we left our people behind. No, no. Don't tell us what to say. Don't tell us what not to say. Freedom of speech is the American way. So keep your hands off Christmas, the flag and our traditions. He was right about that. He was right all along. Wanna hear it, some of you may fear it. Trump always ended up right, he was right all along. You may not wanna hear it, some of you may fear it. Trump always ended up right, he was right all along.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and it's true. He has ended up right all along. You know, I'm so sick and tired of hearing about Trump and his MAGA supporters are a threat to democracy. No, Joe, MAGA is not a threat to democracy, but Hillary Clinton plotting with the FBI to frame a sitting president, claiming to have hard evidence she never had, accusing him of being a spy for Russia. Joe, I would call that a doozy of a threat to democracy. Or Nancy Pelosi and the FBI orchestrating, staging the insurrection, pushing it along at the very, very, very least. I'm sorry, if the FBI won't admit to how many agents they had dressed in Trump garb, there's no doubt in my mind there were hundreds. In solitary confinement with no speedy trial for those they arrested, well, that's a big threat to democracy. The Department of Justice, FBI, not wanting to purge themselves, like I say, still refusing to say how many agents were at the Capitol January 6th, dressed in Trump garb. So, That's a threat to democracy. Joe, a threat to democracy is when you and your family take tens and tens of millions of dollars from China and having your son following you on international trips peddling your influence. Now, that's a threat to democracy, Joe. And, the endless obsession, this fetish almost that you and John Kerry and Obama have for giving Iran the nuclear bomb. It's inexplicable. It's insane and certainly a threat to our democracy, if not our very existence. And Joe, calling for the overthrow of any sovereign government, especially a democratically elected government, especially an ally at war, especially an ally at war for her survival, especially an ally at war with terrorists who will attack America next. That's not good, Joe. That's not good for democracy either. And finally, when you persecute your political counterpart and the former president of the United States and someone who represents more than half of all Americans, and you weaponize the DOJ, the FBI, CIA, IRS to, quote, get Trump and his 80 million Judeo-Christian valued supporters, that, Joe, that's a threat to democracy. Black Lives Matter is one of the worst things to happen to the Black community. BLM has nothing to do with the well-being of Blacks in America and everything to do with Marxism and destroying America. The current lack of fatherhood in the nuclear family is the biggest problem the Blacks have. This is the single largest cause of the disproportionate crime we see coming from Black communities. And yet, the nuclear family is what BLM wishes to destroy. Even Major League Baseball got sucked in printing a large BLM on the pitcher's mound opening day a couple of years ago. But has Major League Baseball rescinded that wrong-headed endorsement? Herman Cain, Alan West, Byron Donalds, Joe Pinion, Larry Elders, and many more great Black leaders have been surpassed by the likes of P. Diddy. This subculture mentality needs to end. People must make positive contributions to society. The world is not here to entertain them, and neither are we. I find it ridiculous, and I really don't understand how the Democrats claim to be pro-woman. I mean, I don't see how any woman could be in favor of Democrat policies. It's a mystery to me. Unless the only thing that matters, the only thing in life that matters is having the freedom to give birth and then let your newly born infant die on a metal tray, or have it dissected just moments before the birth. Look, it'll be up to the individual states, and 15 weeks seems to be more than enough time. And rape and incest will be exceptions in most places, I'm sure, as well. But meanwhile, in Tennessee, pro-lifers who were protesting through singing and prayer, they were convicted of breaching access to the abortion facility. They could have sentences of over 10 years. But nothing seems to happen when pro-life facilities are firebombed. Here's what Rachel Levine, the transgender Secretary of Health and Human Services Policies, do. If you work for her, here you go. Misgendering someone at HHS can get you fired. You can wear whatever clothing and use whatever restrooms you identify with. Men who identify as female have the right to get naked in front of female colleagues in the locker room. Oh, I'm certainly glad for that. Women who are uncomfortable are the ones that have to leave. So what other agendas are there that women, do women want to compete against men in sports? Do women want these transgender men bearing their erections in their locker rooms, their spas, hot tubs, and showers? But, somebody, if being in women's locker rooms creates an erection, perhaps some of these transgenders aren't so trans after all. Do women want to continue getting their heads bashed in playing contact sports against men? You know, the injuries they're sustaining, it doesn't seem to matter to anyone. And what about mothers? What about moms? Come on, mom. Do mothers like having their kids indoctrinated with white guilt? Do mothers approve of the gender confusion assault upon their toddlers? Do you moms approve of the hate America indoctrination your kids receive? Are mothers and parents okay with the anti-Christian, anti-Israel indoctrination at school? Are parents okay with the state replacing them? A Catholic couple in Indiana is asking the Supreme Court to hold the state accountable for keeping their child out of their home after they declined to use his chosen name and pronouns. So the child is not to listen to the parent anymore. The parent is to listen to the child. And if the child comes home and says, my name isn't Barney, it's Sue, and the kid is like 11 years old, and he's swept away with the popularism of the whole gender movement, then you're not allowed to tell him or her otherwise. And if you do, you could lose custody. The poor kids of today. First, they were kept at home. They were kept in masks. Are they allowed to have a secret Valentine's Day card to someone they may like? Or are they allowed to wear costumes at Halloween and have masquerades at school or hunt Easter eggs? Do they have Christmas shows at schools? Do kids have any fun anymore? Women, American women. Does the ongoing torture, rape, and genital mutilation of Israeli hostages mean anything to you? Are American women concerned about the agony and torture of Muslim women that they endure every day in their countries? You know, for 20 years, the women in Afghanistan were free. And then with zero provisions carved out for them, we abandoned them. We abandoned them and left them to the merciless Taliban. You know, women's groups never talk about how Muslim women are the property of their males. They cannot leave home without the consent of the male. Only their fathers and other ruling males can choose their husband. Every marriage is arranged. There's no such thing as falling in love. Women have half the intelligence of men. They must obey their husband's every wish and desire, or they can be beaten at will by their husbands or other males or other family members if they deviate from their status. They need not be highly educated. They're not allowed to sing, dance, or play any musical instrument. They're not allowed to show their face or hair outside of the home. They're not allowed to contact any female or male not approved by the family. They're not allowed to have pets, especially dogs. They're not allowed to drive without a male escort. They cannot charge rape without 4 male witnesses. And that would virtually be impossible because they would most likely be in on it. You know, these Muslim women, they need the support of American women more than anything. But they're just not going to get that with the Democrats.
We have no border, not even a gate. We all get censored by the deep state. We just can't stomach another mandate. That's why we need to bring back Trump. Crime is so bad now, we just wanna hurl. An athlete can say he'll compete as a girl. Kamala's cackle makes your hair curl. That's why we need to bring back Trump. We all want free elections that are fair, but they don't care. joke. Hey, California, you're now a real dump. That's why we need to bring back Trump. Stopping the pipeline is not a good bet. Defunding cops was the dumbest thing yet. Afghanistan, well, how dumb can you get? That's why we need to bring back Trump. We want our oil independence back again. For sure there would have been real peace in Mideast. We tried to warn ya, Joe Biden's a chump. That's why we need to. That's why we have to. That's why we've got to bring back Trump.
Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed that. The lyrics were by Sandy Koplowitz. You know, part of the reason we did that, Sandy and I, was out of the frustration of watching Trump get pelted in the media nonstop. Truth had nothing to do with anything. And, you know, for 9 years now, virtually the entire media, you got Chucky Schumer, Schiff, Pelosi, Biden, Obama, Brennan, Hillary, Comey, Ray Nadler, and the rest of the Democrats have been vilifying President Trump by any means necessary. Any means necessary. Here's the persecution of Trump that they committed. They smeared him with endless anonymous allegations. While he was in office, he was sabotaged by nonstop bogus leaks. He was spied upon by Obama, Biden, Hillary with their FBI, CIA, and NSA. He was framed by the same bad actors I just mentioned. He was targeted with an orchestrated coup and bogus Mueller investigation. He was censored, is censored everywhere, disrespected. You know, when Pelosi ripped up that State of the Union speech, that said it all. That was the most disgusting display of disrespect I have ever seen by any adult, especially a Speaker of a House, especially on stage in front of the entire world. What a disgrace. He's been harassed. You know how sophomoric the White House press corps is, always combative. And then finally he was robbed. Yes, he was robbed of his re-election, stolen by orchestrated massive fraud, concentrated into the swing states. And we demonstrated earlier he lost by less than 43,000 in 3 swing states where fraud is alleged to have occurred. John Brennan and James Clapper are now working for Homeland Security when they should have their asses in jail with the entire gang of 51 intelligence officers for writing a knowingly fraudulent declaration. They implicated our president to be a Russian spy. And with all of their accusations, they were knowingly false. But they know they can get away with it with a corrupt, radical media and a sleeping public. Now, true or not, they have been able to convince millions of Americans that Trump is literally evil. If just one of the millions of brainwashed morons think they will become a hero by harming Trump, they will all be responsible. They will all be held accountable. You know, I've got to ask folks that are planning to perhaps vote for Biden. And in conclusion, I must ask them, are they really okay with insulting Christians by having Transgender Day of visibility on Easter? They couldn't have moved the Transgender Day. Are they really okay with that type of nasty poking in the eye? Because it's really constant from the left. Are they really okay with creating inflation, with fueling inflation, not to make a pun, giving up our oil independence, a one-party system, a corrupt Department of Justice with a two-tiered justice system, the weaponization of the FBI, CIA, IRS, political prisoners being given third world harsh treatment, no speedy trials, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed still playing soccer at Gitmo, transsexuals sitting with your toddler. Are you really okay with schools, Hollywood and media indoctrinating anti-American, anti-white, anti-Christian hatred, sexualizing prepubescence, giving kids gender confusion, promoting castration, promoting hormone or puberty blockers? Are you okay with the demands for pronouns? Frankly, personally, I don't know what they are, and even if I did, I will not and I will never comply with them. You know why? Because I'm an American, and you don't tell me what to do, what to say, how to say it, when to say it, where to say it, and I don't give a damn if you like it or not. So don't tell me you have a new set of words for me and that you have a new invention of the English language. You can stick it somewhere. You thinking of voting for Biden? You're okay with the state taking custody of children over these stupid pronouns? Deleting mother and father? These are also the words they don't want. Ladies and gentlemen? I always use ladies and gentlemen. I'm never going to stop saying ladies and gentlemen. It's respectful to you, the audience. How about no borders? Social engineering of America's demographics, vaccine mandates, mask mandates, lockdowns, public defecation, needles, tents, legalized shoplifting, defunding police, releasing violent offenders, no jail time, men competing with women in sports, transgender with erections in girl societies and locker rooms, Iran getting the bomb, abandoning Americans, interpreters, families, combat dogs, $85 billion in equipment, and Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan, abandoning Israel, sparing Hamas, sponsoring terrorism, embracing socialism and communism. The New World Order, communists, and/or Islamo-Nazis. And let me tell you why I say Islamo-Nazis. The Grand Mufti of the Muslim Brotherhood in World War II went to visit Hitler. They struck up an alliance. They even had a Muslim Panzer Division. There was an Islamo-Nazi alliance. There still is one. It was never dissolved. It's just that the Nazis lost the war. All right, now that I've cleared that up, the New World Order, communists and/or Islamo-Nazis cannot take control of the world as long as there is a strong America, a strong sovereign America. The Democrats are no longer the Democrats. Today's Democrats are totalitarians who want to do away with our Constitution. They want to tell us how to live, where to live, what to eat, how to cook, what to say, what not to say, and on and on and on. This country is still being commandeered by those that hate America. This is the Obama-Biden administration 2.0, and it's killing the country and killing us literally. The reason it feels like we've been under assault for years from the left is because we have been under assault for years from the left. Truth, justice, and the American way used to work pretty damn well. So did celebrating Christmas and Hanukkah every year. Maybe the hateful groups that hate America, Jews, and Christianity should learn the golden rule. As Sarah Sanders says, this next election will be between normal and crazy. It'll be between keeping our sovereignty versus surrender to the New World Order. November is our time to answer. It'll require every Joe citizen to speak up, speak out, and go vote. Trump cannot be the savior, as Laura Logan points out, but he will be the lifeboat we need, giving us more time to save ourselves. No parent ever wants to live to see their child die, and no patriot ever wants to live to see America die. We can never, ever, ever let that happen. This is the Joe Citizen Show. This is Roger Homefield. Thank you for being with us.